Today was a good day. They'd gotten a new car for his personal pleasure. They'd gotten him a new woman for his personal pleasure. And they managed to get the jewel, a perfect blonde child that... Where was the blonde child? They were clawing through that vehicle and there was no child inside. Did he ditch that child? And did she dump the body of that child off somewhere in the desert so he wouldn't get it? That's just spiteful. That was just wrong. She was still getting slapped around. There's obviously no child to be seen. He came walking over and wrapped his massive hand around her neck and lifted her up. She looked at him defiantly, spit a little bit. One of her teeth caught him in the eye. Didn't make much difference to him. He shook her little mongoloid face and said, "Where is the child?" And then something hit him. He got tackled to the side. He was down on the ground. He didn't know what had happened. He got to lift himself up, and then he realized, well, he didn't have a torso from the nipples down. And then he died. Kulat pulled herself up. The pain from her face and her missing teeth was going to be a problem, but she'd been given some time. A Panashima gunship chopper. 2 skiffs on either side with high-powered snipers on both, pumping rounds downrange. That wonderful friend of hers, Murdoch, who she just met, seemed to be torn in half, and everybody else was getting shot too. The gunship had just started cutting loose with the rockets. She didn't have much time. The Marauders had already done most of the work for her, tearing the nets off the side. All she had to do was peel that stupid mag harpoon off the back of her car, and she'd be able to put some mileage on go. Wasn't much mileage, but a little bit of movement was better. Anything better than running was good enough for her right now. She peeled the mag harpoon off as the gunfire was ripping all around her. The Marauders didn't care. They were trying to scatter for their own lives. 20mm cannons will make a hell of a mess of a man on a bike, not to mention the explosive frags and all the other joys they'd had happening. It seemed that her plan had worked. She dropped the child by the water and put the black box up. The black box would call in everything out. It wasn't no good from where she was that far out, but she'd gotten close enough. Activating that black box, sitting down by the child, soldiers would respond to the rig. Once they realized it was a child, it didn't take long to put 2 and 2 together. The kid was screaming and crying, told them what had happened. So Panashima itself wouldn't care. Panashima's policy would have been just take the child to go home. But there was a soldier in the cockpit. That soldier knew what was happening. Someone had run interference and brought this child home. Panashima, well, at least the soldiers owed somebody a favor. So, if nothing else, the very least they could do, is cap off a few rounds and get rid of the Marauders who would have jacked the rig in the first place. Kulat didn't know that, though, and she wasn't taking any chances. As soon as she could, she'd wipe the blood from her eyes and slam that pedal down, getting that Chenwick out of there. She was driving hard and fast, made it up into the Plasteel. It would go faster on the Plasteel rather than anywhere else. The radar was all scrambled and everything was gone. She hoped a rocket rig wasn't coming the other way. But slowly, with the fire and the burning and the rockets fading behind her, she realized that she must have been let go. If that hadn't been cemented home, just as she was getting away, that gunship came flying overhead and spun around some 500 feet ahead of her, looking right down the barrels of the twin snipers and at all the rockets and the guns on the gunship. All it would have taken was a finger twitch, and she'd have been history. But instead, the chopper bowed slightly and then headed straight back for the city. Seems like she'd made a friend in Panashima. She made a friend by saving a child. The child's name, incidentally, was Gloria. She was just a kid who decided she wanted to see the world, so she jumped a rocket rig. Bad move. Almost cost her her life. Cost Kulat a few teeth. She came out of it okay. As the chopper went back in, she drove off into the sunset, and that was it. She's still running around out here somewhere. Kulat. Never met her. I think I seen her car once. The Arunamuk. She always, these stories get told to me, and I pass them on to you. But they give me hope. They give me hope that at least there's a few decent people left out there. I hope you can pass these stories on. I hope you can let people know about what's to come. That's just one story of, one hero, but there's a whole lot of innocent people that died. There's no happy stories 90% of the time. Most of the time, the road killers win. The Marauders were taken out that day. There is no Marauder gang anymore. They're people who took up the name and fight amongst themselves, but there's other gangs that rise. Banshees and all the rest.